By 2024, every single Bentley will be offered with a plug. The journey started with the Bentayga 12 months ago, and now we have this, the uber luxurious Bentley Flying Spur Hybrid. It sits between the entry-level V8 and the flagship W12, but the question is, does a V6 hybrid work in a Bentley? Watch this video to find out, and subscribe to the Auto Express channel for brand new car videos every single week. So if the W12 is considered the chauffeur's Bentley and the V8 is the driver's Bentley, what do we make of this one then? Is this the best of both worlds, or a bit of a confusing mix of the two? But first things first, if there's one thing that you can associate with a Bentley, it's luxury and its refinement, and nothing does luxury and refinement like a silent electric powertrain. Bentley has yet to have the hybrid officially homologated for sale in the UK, so some numbers have yet to be determined. It says you'll be able to charge the Flying Spur in around 2.5 hours, aiming for a pure electric range of at least 25 miles from the 14.1 kilowatt-hour battery. On a full charge, however, our trip readout was showing an impressive 32 miles. That might not sound very good, but if you compare that to a V8 or worse still, a W12, well, the cost savings are going to be significant. We've been doing a mixture of mileage, and we've actually done around 110 miles now, and overall efficiency is running at about 28 miles per gallon. That's a US figure, so around 33 miles per gallon if you convert it to UK. Outright fuel economy is one thing, but let's not forget the benefits of picking the hybrid as a company car. While the numbers need to be confirmed, using the Bentayga as a benchmark shows that running the plug-in Flying Spur could as much as halve your annual benefit-in-kind tax bill. But going back to what this thing is likely to drive, it's just so quiet and effortless, especially when you're running purely on electric. You can't notice when the engine kicks in, certainly when you're at motorway speeds. This hybrid is running a newer 2.9 litre twin-turbo V6, the one you find in the Panamera rather than the one you'll find in the Bentayga Hybrid, and it's certainly got a decent turn of pace when you put your foot down. It's just not the most tuneful motor. That's our biggest issue. But again, that's not likely to matter. If you're going to spend most of your time in the back or pootling to and from the office around town, it's just perfectly refined and quiet. So it can do the town stuff and it can do the motorway stuff. When you find yourself on a twisting country road, you can definitely feel the weight of that hybrid battery. It feels heavier than the V8. It's not as agile as the V8, but it's certainly not sloppy. The steering is good enough. There's not all that much roll, but when you push it into a corner, you can really feel the weight transfer. The V8 then remains the driver's car. How about things in the back then? Well, it may not feel quite as big as you might imagine, but you can adjust the seats, and if you get into a really nice reclined position, there is plenty of space. And those headrests? My God, those headrests. They're like actual pillows. So all things considered then, it's probably a little bit closer to a W12 than it is a V8 in terms of being a decent chauffeur's car. It wafts along nicely, suspension tune's good. It's not that much fun to drive, if we're being brutally honest. So then, all things considered, what's the point in the W12? You've got the V8 if you want to be in the front seat, and you've got the hybrid now if you want to be in the back. Think about the running costs. You're going to save an absolute packet. So yeah, it begs the question, how long is the W12 for this world? Visually, there are just two telltale signs that this is the electrified Flying Spur. The hybrid badges just ahead of the front doors, and the extra filler cap on the rear wing housing the car's charge port. Otherwise, it's business as usual. It's the same story inside where, save for a few sub-menus buried within the tactile infotainment system and some hybrid-specific pop-ups on the digital dials, this plug-in model is almost indistinguishable from the existing petrol versions. One complaint that I do have is that on some of the rougher freeway roads out here in California, there's possibly a little bit more road noise than I would have liked. And actually, around town, the brakes are a little bit grabby. You don't get that super smooth sensation that you do in a Mercedes S-Class where you can come to a stop without it lurching forward. It's very difficult to modulate it enough to have a completely smooth stop, but it's not a deal breaker. So that's what it's like to drive. How about the general cabin? Well, if you've ever sat in a V8 or a W12, very, very familiar. It's completely identical, save from a few drive modes and some menus in the infotainment system. Of course, that's no bad thing. The cabin is exquisite, especially this open pore wood, which isn't like a normal veneer which you get with a lacquer on the front, it feels like a piano. Everything else looks great as well. You get the rotating screen in the middle, fully digital dials behind the steering wheel, but just everything you touch feels beautifully built. This hand-stitched steering wheel, you've got lovely leather on the top here, and there's just metal and gloss plastic wherever you look. And while this particular model may not be to your taste, Bentley says there are 56 billion ways that you can spec a Flying Spur. So if you can't find one that you like, well, you're not easily pleased, are you? There will always be a certain majesty surrounding Bentley's silky smooth W12 engine, but ultimately the brand's future is electric, and nothing is more luxurious than the sound and feel of running around on battery power alone. It's set to cost around 3% more than the V8, with prices starting from around £170,000. But plug it in or run one as a company car and you'll recoup that 3% in no time. If, of course, that kind of thing matters to you. The V8 remains the driver's Bentley, but dare we say it, if you spend most of your time in the back, then the hybrid should be at the top of your list.